it feels like we're just drowning in information these days. Every click, every notification. It's a lot. And now, AI tools can churn out text like nobody's business. So how do you cut through all that noise? How do you find, like, real insight? And maybe more importantly, how do you make sure it's still your thinking, your voice?
Now, that's exactly what we do here at the Deep Dive. We take your sources, your research, and really dig in to find those crucial nuggets of insight.
Yeah.
And today, we're tackling a really big one. Artificial intelligence in academia. It's transforming things.
Definitely. And our guide for this deep dive is Luis Valerio P. Trindade's book, A Practical Guide for Smart and Ethical Use Without Incurring into Plagiarism. Pretty timely, right?
Extremely. The goal today is really to give you practical strategies, sort of an ethical compass for using these AI tools effectively, whether you're studying or working.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've all seen the explosion, haven't we? ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, popping up everywhere since late 2022. It feels, I don't know, revolutionary.
It really does. And what's fascinating, as the author points out, is that while, online grammar checkers and writing aids aren't fundamentally new.
Right, we've had those for a while.
Exactly. But the sheer leap forward in sophistication, scale, usability, it's just astonishing. The author makes a really compelling point. This AI revolution, kind of like the internet browser was, it's here to stay. There's really no going back.
And they do so much more than just grammar. I mean, these systems can pull in huge amounts of data, synthesize it, spot patterns, and spit out these coherent, almost human-like responses in seconds. It's that wonder effect the author talks about, where you just look at it and think, wow, how did it do that?
But that's the thing, isn't it? Behind that polished, super confident exterior, there's a critical reality we need to grasp.
Which is?
Well, these systems don't think like we do, not even close. And crucially, they're absolutely not flawless. They don't create new knowledge. They're just rearranging existing data based on patterns they've learned.
Right, like remixing.
Exactly. And that brings us right to a core dilemma, especially for academia.
So what does this mean for a place like academia where, originality, critical thinking, careful methods, those are the absolute cornerstones. This tempting convenience must create some challenges.
Precisely. That's the paradox. You've got this amazing convenience bumping up against academic rigor. And yeah, challenges pop up immediately.
Like what specifically?
We're talking ethical uncertainties, for one, big time. The risk of citation mistakes, huge problem. Questions about who actually authored the work, and the very real possibility of just getting lazy. Intellectual complacency. Using these tools without really thinking about it can lead straight to unintentional plagiarism, shallow analysis, and frankly, the erosion of independent thought.
But the author isn't saying just ban AI, is he? He seems to think that's not realistic.
Quite the opposite. He believes resisting it is impractical, probably even counterproductive. So if we can't just resist it,
then how do we deal with it? How do we engage?
Critically, that's the key word. We have to understand what they can do, but just as importantly, what they can't do. Their limitations.
Okay.
And then learn to use them responsibly, strategically. The book really hammers this home. These tools should enhance our critical thinking, our scholarly voice.
Or replace them.
Exactly, not outsource our thinking. The goal has to be maintaining full control, full ownership of your ideas, making sure the final output genuinely reflects your intellect.
Okay, let's get a bit more specific then. The author gives this comparative snapshot of some of the big AI chatbots, almost like a cheat sheet for what they're good at and maybe not so good at.
Yeah, it's useful. Think of it less like a ranking and more like different tools for different jobs.
Right.
So if you're drafting essays, doing outlines, maybe summarizing or brainstorming, ChatGPT is, well, pretty proficient. Very good at that.
There's always a but.
The big limitation is its tendency to just make up citations. Hallucinate them, as they say. So you absolutely have to manually check every single reference painstakingly.
Okay, good to know. Then there's Google Gemini. That fits right into Google Docs and Sheets, right?
Yep, seamless integration there. And it's pretty efficient at summarizing web content, even analyzing images, which is interesting. But it might struggle with really complex, long academic writing.
Got it. And Microsoft Copilot.
Excellent if you're focused on refining layout, structure, maybe generating visuals like tables or graphs, especially since it's baked into Microsoft products.
But not for writing the whole paper.
No, definitely not designed for generating full academic papers or, deep content.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for research, I think. Perplexity.
Ah, yes, Perplexity. This one's getting attention because it does live web searches and, crucially, provides transparent citations. It's actually built to identify and summarize academic sources.
And it has that academic mode.
It does, yeah, for platforms like PubMed and ArcFist. So it's often seen as more reliable for referencing than, say, ChatGPT.
But still not perfect.
No tool is.
Yeah.
Even Perplexity can pull in non-peer-reviewed stuff if your prompts aren't specific enough. And it's not really for, like, composing a structured argument from scratch.
Okay. And one more DeepSeek.
DeepSeek stands out for maths, logic-based tasks, anything code-heavy. That's its niche.
So less useful for humanities.
Yeah, its limitations are more in general knowledge, humanities, social sciences. And its citation features are pretty basic, frankly.
So the takeaway here is no magic bullet. Each tool has its strengths, its weaknesses. You got to pick the right one for the job.
Exactly. It's not one size fits all. And that leads us to what the author highlights as the two absolute pillars for using these things responsibly in academia.
Okay, pillar number 1.
It's all about asking the right questions,
Mm-hmm.
or crafting effective prompts, as the jargon goes. You can't just toss a vague question at the AI and expect gold.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A poorly worded prompt, you'll get weak, maybe even misleading results. You need clarity, no ambiguity, precision about your objective,
Yeah.
and you need to specify the depth you're looking for.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of just asking, tell me something about climate change, which is way too broad,
Yeah.
try something like, summarize recent peer-reviewed research, say from the past 5 years, on the impact of climate change on coral reef ecosystems, specifically in Southeast Asia. See the difference?
Huge difference. Much more targeted. It gives the AI guardrails.
Exactly. Scaffolding. Clear direction.
And it's not like a one-shot deal, right? You have to treat it more like a conversation. Iterative.
Absolutely crucial point. You must critically assess that first response. Ask yourself, does this actually meet my standards? Is the info relevant? Is it balanced?
And if not?
Then you revise, rephrase your prompt, narrow the focus, probe deeper. You push back. You refine. You iterate. Remember, these chatbots don't create original knowledge.
They retrieve, summarize, reorganize.
Exactly. The burden of evaluation, of critical judgment, that stays entirely with you 100%.
Which brings us neatly to pillar number 2, triangulation. Sounds kind of technical, like surveying or something.
It's actually a perfect analogy for academic research. Triangulation just means using multiple sources, multiple perspectives, or different approaches to verify and strengthen your findings.
Okay.
And when you're dealing with AI-generated content, it becomes absolutely indispensable. Because, like we said, AI is not flawless. It hallucinates. It oversimplifies.
So relying on just the AI output is risky.
Extremely risky. It makes your work vulnerable to errors, bias, misinformation,
Yeah.
you name it.
So how do we actually do that? Triangulate AI content?
The author gives a really practical 4-step guideline. First, verification of citations.
We talked about hallucinations.
Yep. Always check if the papers or books the AI cites actually exist.
Yeah.
And are they peer-reviewed? Fabricated references are disturbingly common. It's like that friend who tells great stories but sometimes embellishes. You gotta check the facts.
Okay, step 1. Check the refs. What's 2?
Validation of claims. Look up the theoretical points or historical facts it mentions. Did the author it cited really say that? Is that quote actually real?
Gotcha. Verify the substance.
Or 3.
Cross-checking interpretations. If the AI explains a complex concept, don't just take its word for it. Consult at least 2 other independent, reliable sources to confirm its explanation is fair, accurate, and not missing crucial nuance. AI loves to oversimplify.
Right. Get a second and third opinion. And 4th?
Consistency with your own analysis. Does what the AI presents actually line up with your own understanding from other reading, or does it clash? Use that tension for reflection. Does it challenge your view? Does it confirm it? Why?
So basically, you're using the AI output as one data point, but you're rigorously checking it against other sources and your own critical thinking.
Exactly. Blindly trusting AI. That leads straight to unintentional plagiarism, bad judgment, and maybe worst of all, losing your own academic voice. This deep dive is already giving me so many aha moments about this. It's not just about using the tool, it's about how you integrate it thoughtfully.
Which brings us right to the heart of it. Academic integrity. That's really the core of this whole discussion.
Yeah.
It's not just some bureaucratic rule. It's the bedrock of intellectual life, right? Ensuring knowledge is built carefully, transparently, accountably. And AI, well, it demands a whole new kind of critical literacy around integrity.
And the definition of plagiarism itself seems to be stretching, or at least needing clarification. Traditionally, it's passing off someone else's work as yours.
Right.
But with AI, if a student just copies and pastes AI output without saying so, it's plagiarism. Not because a specific human wrote it, but because the student didn't create it independently. They didn't acknowledge the source.
That's what the author calls unearned representation. It's about presenting work as your own that you didn't actually genuinely produce through your own intellectual effort, even if an AI helped along the way. And there's also the risk of unintentional content appropriation. These AIs are trained on massive data sets, right, including copyrighted stuff. So they might inadvertently echo published scholars without proper referencing.
Wow, didn't think of that.
It can even lead to something called gift authorship, where maybe a student relies so heavily on AI that they get credit for work they didn't substantially contribute to intellectually.
And we're seeing real-world consequences, aren't we? Some pretty alarming examples.
We are. That European university study found 69% of students using AI for assignments and 16% flat out admitted cheating with it in exams without disclosure.
16%.
And a UK survey reported nearly 7,000 proven cases of AI-related cheating in just 2023-2024. That's a huge jump, while traditional copy-paste plagiarism actually went down.
Wow. I remember reading about that student in the UK who almost got kicked out because a lecturer flagged AI use in her essay. And wasn't there a big lawsuit in the US? Parents suing a high school because their son got punished for using AI, including fake citations?
That's right. The parents argue the rules were unclear, but the school said it was cheating. The judge ultimately sided with the school, emphasizing the student's responsibility.
Man, these cases just scream for clarity, don't they?
They really do. Institutions are facing this dual challenge. Teach AI literacy, but also prevents misuse. The author really stresses that everyone, educators, scholars, students, we all have to adapt, not to block the tech, but to embed ethical reasoning and intellectual ownership into how we use it.
It's fascinating, though, how different places are trying to handle this. It really feels like everyone's scrambling to catch up, and there's no single playbook.
Oh, absolutely. That's the picture the author paints clearly. This global mosaic of policies shows we're in a super rapid transition. And the efforts, yeah, they're pretty uneven. You see everything from comprehensive regulations to outright bans in certain contexts.
So maybe let's touch on some of the key approaches around the world. What's happening?
Okay, well, the European Union has definitely been proactive. They've got the EU AI Act, which is actually the world's first comprehensive AI law. Yeah, it takes a risk-based approach. It actually bans AI systems that try to infer emotions in education settings, and it puts strict rules on high-risk AI, like tools used for admissions or grading.
Interesting. So that's a very top-down regulatory approach. What about other places? Is anyone banning it?
Well, in China, the author notes that improper AI usage is quite widespread. This has led some top universities, like Fudan, to actually ban AI use in really critical areas: research design, thesis writing.
Really?
A ban.
In those specific contexts, yes. And some, like Tianjin University, have even set limits, like saying no more than 40% of a thesis can be AI-generated content.
40%? How do they even measure that? Seems tricky.
Very tricky. But it shows the level of concern. So you have regulation on one end, bans on the other. What about the middle ground?
Yeah, are countries trying to find a balance?
Definitely. Look at the United Kingdom. The Russell Group universities developed 5 principles. They emphasize things like AI literacy, adapting teaching, maintaining academic rigor, and collaboration. It's more about integration and education.
Okay, principles-based. In Brazil is similar, focusing on principles like transparency.
Yeah.
You have to declare AI use in your methodology, data protection, ensuring human authorship, clarity in syllabuses, and awareness of AI biases.
What about North America, say the US or Canada?
In the United States, particularly among Ivy League schools, there isn't one single policy. It's more decentralized. Generally, instructors have autonomy, misuse is treated like plagiarism, and there's an openness to adapting as the tech changes.
And Canada.
Studies there show a real push for explicit AI guidelines within academic integrity policies. They're advocating for systems that are human-centered, beneficial, and transparent.
Okay, any others jumping out? Australia, Japan.
Australia advises students to use AI as a learning tool, acknowledge it, and understand plagiarism risks. Their government even set up a generative AI knowledge hub for higher ed.
Proactive.
And Japan is moving quickly, too, encouraging AI use for independent learning, but setting policy guardrails.
What about places where maybe the infrastructure or literacy is still developing, India or Africa?
In India, the landscape is described as very fragmented. There are calls for strategic policy, but challenges like infrastructure deficits and limited AI literacy among faculty are hurdles. And in Africa, the Association of African Universities held a summit specifically on integrating AI to improve education, but emphasizing human control and fostering local AI innovation.
Wow. So it really is a patchwork quilt of approaches, from strict EU regulation to specific bans in China, principles in the UK and Brazil, decentralization in the US.
It absolutely is. What it tells us loud and clear is that academia is mid-shift. There's no single Bible on this yet. Navigating this ethical terrain requires everyone to be proactive, reflective.
And the goal remains the same, right? Leverage AI to enhance critical thinking, not to shortcut it.
Precisely. That's the tightrope we're all walking.
Okay, this brings us to a super practical question that I bet a lot of our listeners have. Given all this, how do we actually cite AI? How do we credit these tools in our academic work?
Yeah, it's a big one. And attribution here is way more than just a formality, isn't it? It's a core ethical principle. It's about transparency, credibility, respecting intellectual labor.
Right.
So when AI genuinely shapes your work, you can't ignore its influence.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge it somehow.
But like you said, AI isn't a human author. It doesn't have intent or creativity like a person does. So
Yeah.
can you list ChatGPT as a co-author on your paper?
That's a definite no. The short answer is absolutely not. AI should not be considered a co-author.
Why not?
Because authorship implies intellectual contribution, accountability, the ability to actually stand by the work and respond to criticism. AI just can't fulfill those conditions.
Okay.
And major publishers think Nature, Elsevier, Springer, Nature, they've explicitly stated that large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT, they just don't meet their authorship criteria. You, the human author, you remain ultimately responsible, period.
And this loops back to the fact that AI isn't perfect, right? Despite that initial wow factor, it can seriously lead you astray.
Absolutely. People often treat AI output with this kind of reverence, almost, but that trust can be misplaced. We talked about hallucination.
It's generating stuff that's wrong, misleading, or just plain made up.
Exactly. The author gives that really stark example from 2023, the legal case, where a lawyer used ChatGPT for research.
And it fabricated case law, citations that didn't exist.
Totally fabricated them. And that had serious professional consequences for the attorney involved. It's a cautionary tale.
Wow. Okay, so given it's not an author, but we need to acknowledge its influence and be wary of its flaws.
All right.
How and where do we actually disclose using AI to maintain trust and integrity?
Well, it really depends on the context and, crucially, your specific institution's guidelines. Those are evolving fast, so always check locally.
But generally?
Generally, for student coursework, maybe a footnote on the first page or a clear statement at the end, sometimes a formal declaration form.
Like what might that statement say?
Something straightforward, maybe. Portions of the literature review summary and the initial structural outline for this paper were generated with assistance from ChatGPT 4.0. All sources were independently verified, and all interpretations, analysis, and final text are the author's own.
Clear. What about longer works, theses, dissertations?
For those, it's typically discussed in the methodology section or maybe in the acknowledgments. You explain how the tool was used in the research or writing process.
And for journal papers?
Norms are definitely still evolving there. But many journals now require an explicit author note or some clarification in the methods section about AI use. The guiding principle is transparency.
So, bottom line. If AI meaningfully shaped the work, the phrasing, the structure, the content, the reader deserves to know.
That's the core idea. Full stop.
Okay, so let's say I use ChatGPT to summarize, I don't know, Macbeth for a lit paper. What's the general principle for citing that specific instance?
The core principle is always transparency about the tool's role. Now, the exact format will vary depending on the citation style, APA, MLA, Harvard, Chicago, etc. They're all scrambling to update their guidelines.
So there's no single universal format yet?
Not quite universal, no. But generally, they require you to identify the tool, say ChatGPT, the developer, GAG, OpenAI, maybe the version number, the date you use it, and sometimes even the specific prompt you gave it.
So you're documenting the interaction.
Exactly. You're treating it somewhat like a personal communication or referencing software, acknowledging its role in your process, not crediting it as an author. Best advice, always check the latest official guidelines for your specific style guide and your institution. They change.
Good advice. Okay, that all sounds pretty clear in principle. But then the author brings up something called AI shaming. What on earth is that?
Yeah, it's this interesting kind of problematic cultural phenomena. It's basically the discomfort or stigma some researchers or students feel about admitting they've used AI tools, even if they use them ethically and appropriately.
So people are hiding it, even when they follow the rules.
Apparently so. The author mentions that over 700 published papers have been found with telltale signs of AI, like odd phrasing or common AI errors, but with no disclosure, some even in prestigious journals.
Whoa.
And there was that one infamous retracted paper that actually contained the phrase as an AI language model. Oops.
Yikes. Talk about getting caught, so why hide it? Are people afraid of being seen as lazy or less rigorous?
That seems to be the core of it. The author lists several reasons. Fear of dismissal, fear that their work won't be seen as authentic, fear of moral judgment, maybe just a resistance to new tech. But this creates this culture of silence, right, where AI gets used, but it's all happening behind closed doors. The author argues the problem isn't really the technology itself, it's the lack of institutional support and clear norms for normalizing its ethical and transparent use.
That makes sense. We need open conversation, not shame. Okay, so we've covered what AI can do, the risks, the policies, the citation issues. Now, how do we actively navigate these ethical lines? How do we make sure we stay in control of our own work?
The key concept the author emphasizes is critical mediation. You need to be the active mediator between the tool and your final output.
Meaning,
treat AI like a thinking partner, maybe a research assistant, but never a ghostwriter. If you ask it to outline a topic, fine. But then you have to dive into the source material, you have to check the accuracy, you have to rephrase any suggestions in your own unique voice, and you have to be clear about how the tool was used.
so your fingerprints need to be all over it.
Exactly. Your unique research style, your intellectual contribution, that has to be prevalent.
And what about that risk we touched on, AI becoming a substitute for our own thinking? That seems like a really slippery slope.
It's probably the biggest danger, honestly. What starts as helpful prompting can very easily slide into over-reliance. You just keep asking for the next step and the next.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
So you have to consciously establish and maintain a clear boundary. Where does the AI's assistance end? And where does your own intellectual ownership begin? AI is a supplement to your reasoning. It's not the source of it.
It can't replicate your unique perspective.
Never. Your motivation, your lived experience, your specific academic background, what the author calls your accumulated knowledge or intellectual capital, AI doesn't have that. If you find the AI suggesting your core research questions or defining your key variables, that's a huge red flag.
Kind of step back and reassess who's driving.
Absolutely. Stop and ask, are these my goals? Is this my argument?
So, to help us stay on the right side of that line, the author provides a checklist, right? An AI ethics checklist.
Yes, it's a really powerful 10-point checklist. Super practical for anyone using these tools.
Okay, let's run through them quickly. What's point 1?
Think before you prompt.
Yeah.
Use AI for brainstorming, maybe clarifying concepts, but not for actually writing whole assignments from scratch. Stay in control. Remember, the AI output is just a draft, a suggestion. You are the author, not the algorithm.
3.
Fact check everything.
Right?
We keep saying it, but it's crucial. Verify claims, dates, names, and especially citations, because those darn hallucinations.
4.
Rewrite and reframe. Never ever just copy-paste. Always rephrase AI output in your own words. Tailor it to your specific argument and audience.
5. Cite when required. Follow your academic guidelines for acknowledging AI use. No ambiguity there.
6. Understand the policies. Know your specific institution's rules on AI. They vary.
7. Be transparent. Disclose any meaningful AI contributions to your work. Don't hide it.
8. Don't automate insight. This is key.
Yeah.
AI supports your thinking. It doesn't replace critical analysis or the, genuine struggle of figuring things out.
9. Respect context. What's okay for drafting a casual blog post might be totally unacceptable for a peer-reviewed journal article or an exam. Use judgment.
And finally, 10. Keep learning. AI technology evolves incredibly fast. Stay updated on new tools, new policies, and the ongoing ethical discussions in your field.
That is such a solid, practical tool, really helpful for anyone navigating this.
Which kind of brings us to the bigger picture question, doesn't it? How does all this AI actually impact critical thinking itself and academic creativity? Does it genuinely help us think more clearly, or does it just make us intellectually lazy?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. For a lot of students, I imagine, the idea of AI whipping up an essay still feels like cheating. like a shortcut around doing the actual work. Is it inherently cheating?
Well, not inherently, no. As we discussed, cheating is really about misrepresenting your effort or submitting work that doesn't reflect your genuine understanding.
Right.
But using AI isn't cheating if it's disclosed properly and if it's genuinely supporting your analytical effort, rather than just replacing it wholesale. Most institutions are focusing penalties on non-disclosure and on work that clearly isn't underpinned by the student's own reasoning.
So educators are adapting.
They have to. They're creating assignments where genuine thinking is more visible, things like reflection papers, in-class discussions, oral defenses maybe, ways to see the student's actual thought process.
But the deeper question, can AI actually help us think better? Or does it just make things easier, potentially flattening our curiosity, our ability to really wrestle with complex ideas?
That's the crux of it. AI can certainly support clearer thinking in some ways. It can help organize jumbled ideas, maybe spot inconsistencies in an argument, help rephrase tangled sentences. If you're facing a really dense theory, an AI summary could be a useful starting point, right? A quick way in before you dive deep.
Sure, I can see that.
But the danger, as we keep coming back to, is mistaking that smooth coherence for actual cognition. AI often sacrifices complexity for readability. It packages nuance into these neat, tidy formulations that might sound good, but lack real interpretive depth.
And then you stop questioning it.
Exactly. You accept the plausible-sounding output as good enough, instead of pushing further, digging deeper, really struggling towards genuine understanding.
So, true originality, real insight, that comes from the discomfort, from wrestling with the uncertainty and ambiguity, not from getting quick, clean answers from an algorithm.
Precisely. AI is brilliant at speed and surface-level association. It doesn't struggle with paradox. It doesn't question its own assumptions. So if students become too dependent, they really risk losing that messy, iterative, sometimes frustrating process that truly defines deep scholarly thinking.
But you also mentioned it could be a stimulus.
It can. If used thoughtfully, prompted carefully, AI can generate counter-arguments you haven't considered, or highlight different angles. It can become a sort of conversational partner that reflects back your assumptions, forcing you to challenge them.
Ah, okay. So it can push originality if used strategically.
If used as a tool to provoke your thinking, yes.
That's a great distinction, a partner, not a replacement. So let's get practical again. How can we actively use AI to genuinely enhance our writing rather than just automate it?
The author gives some good examples. Take planning and structuring. AI can definitely suggest outlines for a paper or chapter.
Yeah, that seems helpful.
But the key is you must actively reshape it, refine it, make it your own. Say a student is outlining a comparative essay on, I don't know, theories of justice, Rawls, Kant, Plato. AI can give a basic structure, but then the student has to go in, expand each section, customize it with their own analysis, their own arguments, their own evidence.
Right. It's a starting point, not the finished product. What about paraphrasing? That's a skill students often struggle with, especially with dense academic language.
It is tricky. And AI can help here. It can demystify complex passages, suggest clearer ways to phrase things. But again, huge responsibility lies with the user.
How so?
Let's say a master's student is trying to explain Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. They could ask AI to simplify it, okay? But then they must go back to the original Vygotsky source, cross-check the AI's interpretation against other scholarly explanations, and then produce their own restatement, grounded in their genuine understanding.
So the AI version is just raw material to work with.
Exactly. It's a potential stepping stone, never the final draft. You have to synthesize it yourself.
Okay. What about refining academic style and tone? Can AI help sound more scholarly without sounding robotic or generic?
It can act as a useful editorial companion. Imagine a postgraduate student working on a policy analysis. They could use AI to maybe smooth out awkward paragraphs, suggest better transition words, or flag inconsistent terminology.
It's like a sophisticated grammar checker plus.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But the student is the editor-in-chief. They select which suggestions actually feel authentic to their voice. They adapt the phrasing. They discard the stuff that sounds too generic or doesn't fit their specific point. The goal is amplifying their voice, not automating it.
Amplification, not automation. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, using AI for revision and feedback. This seems potentially very powerful.
Oh, it's a potentially powerful application for sure. AI can offer comments, suggest structural improvements, propose alternative phrasings that can make the revision process feel more dynamic, maybe less solitary.
How would that work in practice?
Well, say a student is reviewing a draft of their research paper. The AI might highlight sentences that are way too long or suggest combining two related paragraphs for better flow.
And the student just accepts the changes.
No, that's the critical step. The student then has to interrogate those suggestions. Why did the AI flag that sentence? Does combining those paragraphs actually strengthen the argument, or does it obscure an important distinction? They weigh the suggestions against their own purpose and make selective edits that genuinely improve the paper without watering down its specificity or their unique argument.
So the revision is informed by the AI, not dictated by it.
That's the perfect way to put it. Informed, not dictated. You remain the intellectual driver.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive has really illuminated so much. It's clear the emergence of AI in academia isn't just about new tools. It's fundamentally redefining how we write, how we research, and maybe most importantly, how we think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's crystal clear that these AI tools, powerful as they are, they're not flawless. They're definitely not authors. And they don't produce genuinely new knowledge.
Right. Their convenience is undeniable, incredibly tempting sometimes. But it's just so crucial that we don't outsource our uniquely human capacity for critical thinking, for nuanced judgment, for ethical reasoning.
So, if there's one big takeaway message for you, the listener, it's this. Always interrogate, always cross-check. AI can summarize, rephrase, combine information with astonishing speed and, frankly, often very convincingly.
Susceptively, though, sometimes.
Exactly. But you must remain in control. Always ensure that your intellect, your insights, your unique voice are driving the final output, not the algorithms.
So maybe the provocative thought to leave you with is this. As you inevitably integrate AI tools into your academic life, your professional work, constantly ask yourself, are you using this powerful tool primarily to sharpen your own mind? Or are you perhaps unintentionally allowing it to dull that essential, irreplaceable human capacity for original thought, deep inquiry, and genuine intellectual struggle?